Hey there guys, today we're taking a long overdue look back at two locomotives that have remained very popular to this date on my channel, of course being the Lionel Polar Express and the Bachmann nickel plate Berkshire. It has been 4 years, unbelievably, since I uploaded the first comparison video showing these two side by side, and I just wanted to do a long-term, kind of like a car and driver, a road and track road test on a high mileage vehicle. We're going to show you how they do after 4 years of ownership, my thoughts, and about what you can expect. So this won't be a crazy long video. We're not going to do all the crazy head-to-head that we did in the first one, but this is a good little info slip if you do own these locomotives, what to expect, or what you can look forward to down the line. So, per always, let's get cracking. So first up on deck, we're going to cover the Polar Express. Now this engine, of course, has had a few revisions since Lionel first brought it out. Now I'll be fully transparent. The one you saw in the first videos I did had a issue where I tried to pull the tender tether out, to disconnect it, and half the wires ripped out. So this locomotive is a replacement I got from Lionel about a week after filming. It actually came with 4 shafts per revolution, so I was really thankful for that improvement. And it's pretty much stayed together since then. So yeah, that's a long time for a tether to stay coupled, but there she is. Mostly it's been on display, so you're going to notice some dust on this engine in close-up shots and just in general. Thankfully, it's still a great little engine. I've had good luck with it pulling. One fun little carryover, if you're running this thing wide open, just like an O-gauge engine, it can and will roll over. I've done it before on the club layout without even trying. So that's one thing to be aware of. If you cook it too hot, it will roll over. Beyond that, though, it's been a good engine. Detail-wise, everything's pretty much stayed the same. Nothing's broken off, nothing's really chipped or cracked, the lettering's remained good, the details have remained on. I mean, again, it's a very basic locomotive, but it's done its part really, really well. The only piece I will stress again to be careful with is this tender tether. Now, of course, with it sloping upward into the cab, there's a weird angle on it, but these wires can and will have the tendency to pop out. I don't know if Lionel has fixed this in subsequent runs. I hope they've addressed it, but anything can happen. The only other problem I've had with operation is this drawbar. It likes to slip a little low, as you can see here. So when you're trying to couple it up or just get it on the track, one little kick up or spring bounce and then it's uncoupled. So easiest way to fix this is to go in with a KD washer beneath the truck where the spring's at and just kind of angle it up a little bit or bend it yourself. Another way to tell this engine's had some good mileage is the traction tires have a little bit of wear, not a ton though. Tender wheels are overdue a cleaning, but beyond that, it does work pretty good. So everything's still in ship shape. And just so you can see the engineer's side to prove nothing's gone crazy, everything's still in really good shape here. So overall, detail-wise and mechanically, this has proven to be a good little engine. We're going to cover the decoder in a minute. That's where it gets a little squirrely, and I've had some funky results while running, which I'm sure some of you may have also had, but again, this is a first run locomotive. I can't say how the later ones have done, but this is what you can expect if you get a hold of one of the early runs and see how it does down the line. And now, of course, for the lightweight challenger, the Bachmann Berk. How has it done after 4+ years of ownership? Minus some cosmetic issues on the front, which we'll explain in a second, it's held up really well. The paint that I did the black walls on the drivers looks fantastic. It's still running like a champ. The lock sound select decoder that y'all heard in the video is still ticking. It's got a new sound file, but beyond that, working like a watch. In terms of a long-termer, this is probably the most predictable because, again, the mechanism's very solid. There's plenty of these on the market, so you can easily get parts. Bachmann's always going to reissue the locomotive, so you're not lost if something really wrong happens with your engine. Mechanically, it's the Bachmann drive. It's really good. It's still really smooth. The lock sound select decoder is still ticking away. It does fantastic. It's got a new sound file now, but the engine still runs like a watch. So this, I can't say enough for how this engine is done. But per a few things some of y'all noticed and are probably curious about why the headlight is cracked and why the pilot looks weird, well, this little shrimp decided to take a little adventurous fall to the basement floor one day. I barely caught it with my foot. This is, again, the dangers of running the track on the edge. I re-glued the pilot, but I've not had a chance to really repaint it. So it's missing the front coupler. You can see the scuff mark to the immediate right, and of course the polling pocket is missing its paint too. But for falling on a concrete floor, I'd say it fared pretty dang good. So kudos to Bachmann for a decent design. And just scrolling on down, just like the Polar Express, this had a little dust from display and running, but overall she's done really, really well. The only issue I've had, and just like the Lionel, is the wires on the tether. As of this morning, I was getting it out for filming, and wouldn't you know, one of the wires decided to jump right out. So that's an issue. I've got some parts on hand that we're going to fix, but just something to be aware about with these plugs. Always be careful transporting your engines, whether you're unplugging it a lot or just messing with it. You can easily rip those out of the socket. So just like the Polar, here's a quick look at the engineer side so you can see what all it looks like. You will notice some missing cab glass. That fell out right before filming, so always check your glue on your details. And of course, there's the biggest improvement to me. Putting Blackwall drivers on this locomotive makes it look so much better right out of the gate. So overall, this engine has proven to be much like a Honda Accord. It's got high mileage, it's run really well, it's taken a little bit of a beating, but it still comes back to get the job done. So overall, the Bachmann, again, like I said earlier, is probably the most predictable out of the set. You know it's going to run good. You know there's parts available, so you can kind of do with it as you please. My hope is Bachmann will re-release the Berkshire tooling with wow sound decoders like you've seen them doing in their recent products, so do not rule this casting out of their lineup yet. Alright, so with the absolute simplest test track possible, literally like loop of Kato Unitrack, here's how each of them still do. So here's the Bachmann with the new lock file. Keep in mind, one of the wires is disconnected, so it may look a little jerky. Much on the budget side, to show you the drivetrain, I've simply just separated the track sections, and we'll give it the beans. Spin short, still very, very smooth. Probably just needs a little grease, a little oil, and she'll be good to go for however long. So that's something to keep in mind if you are long-terming one of these locomotives. So now for the wild card of the group, that being the Polar Express. This engine has done well on DCC, but there are a few caveats. Given this was Lionel's first, DCC attempt with HO, it was a little buggy, and I will admit there are times I'm running this locomotive, it will ghost itself, and by that I mean you'll be cruising along and suddenly the bell will fire, the whistle will fire, and you did not touch it in the slightest. So that is something to be aware of. Now, This has a lot of momentum programmed on DCC, which I can run it around a little bit if you show you if you'd like. Otherwise, we're just going to stick to the Lion Chief system, which I've had the best results with for the long term. Okay, so we'll do the same mechanism test. So just so you know, the chuff sensor's on the tender, so it's going to do that whenever you move the tender. So we'll get the drivetrain rolling here. Alright, so we've switched the engine back over to DCC, and I'll fire the address so you can see how it behaves. And this is with some program momentum in, so I cut the throttle when the engine was right about here. So with it muted, you can hear the mechanism is still very solid. The only noise you really heard on the Lion Chief test was probably about at the halfway mark to 3/4 throttle. That's when you started getting more gear noise and drivetrain. Honestly, I think some label grease would shut that right up. But this is still a very smooth locomotive on the bottom end, and they did a nice job for what it is. So we'll give it a quick lap in DCC so you guys can hear what it sounds like cooking loose. So there's a ghost bell in its finest recording. I had to blow the whistle to shut it up, but that's something kind of what you can expect sometimes. Keep in mind, there's the Digitrax and the Lion Chief you saw on the left side, so prime example. So minus some ghost sounds here and there, and the drivetrain making a little noise, this engine's aged pretty good overall. It's done a lot better than I expected it to. I had high faith in it when it first came out, and I still like it. I'm glad I've got it, and it's nice to have, especially around Christmas. But Lionel, I hope, has definitely improved some things, which, as far as I know, they have. They've stepped up the quality, the sounds are a little bit better, and they're going to get more so as we see more TMCC and rail sounds tech trickle down the line, because those boards are going to get smaller. Lionel has said this, and I really, really hope we see it trickle down to HO where it's actually TMCC level sound control. and a lot better value for the money. So I still have high hopes. That hasn't gone away. I'm just waiting on Lionel to actually do something scale and not rehash model power tooling. So stay tuned for that one. In conclusion, these two locomotives share two different design philosophies. One, of course, being the more attempted to scale model. The other, of course, is a toy at heart. That said, they both still run really well and perform as expected. Now, of course, they've taken their fair share of beatings, falls, slip and slide, you name it, but they've kept their end of the bargain as running, being reliable, and getting the job done. So, as I said in the first review, way back, whichever one you end up with, as long as you're happy with it, that's the main thing. Because that's at the end of the day, the reason we collect these things and operate these trains. But I thank you guys again for watching. It was fun to take a little look back at, what surprisingly bloomed into a very popular video. So I just wanted to give you all a little bit of a long-term test and see how that went. So you guys can see that they're still going, they're still working as intended, and I'm still enjoying them. So thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you next time.